There's a fresh story, come and see. With Olivia and Jenny, be who you need to be. Honest voices, safe and strong. Come as you are, you belong. So take a breath, let's begin. You're not alone, we're here again.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to a Fresh Story podcast. This season, as you know, we are diving into families, all different structures, all different people. We're so excited. I love when I connect with people online on the internet and I get to hear their story and reach out to them and they come on the show, and Lori is one of those people. Lori, who are you? Where are you calling in from? All the good stuff.
My name is Lori Lyons. I'm just outside of New Orleans, just west of New Orleans in the suburbs. And I was a sports writer in Louisiana for more than 30 years. I was inducted into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame in 2023. I was one of only two prominent female sports writers ever in the state. I was president of the Louisiana Sports Writers Association. And so I had that women in sports thing going. Then, the industry changed and I got laid off, and I was a caretaker for my mother-in-law and then my mother and a freelancer. And then about 6 years ago, I got a job teaching journalism and creative writing. I did that for 5 years. I'm married to a high school baseball coach who has been doing his thing for more than 30 years as well. And when he got let go from his job as the baseball coach at our school, they kind of didn't realize it, but I went too.
Yeah.
I officially retired last year, and I'm enjoying retirement very, very much. Trying to write some books. I have a little blog where I write about my life and being a mom and a stepmom and an adoptive mom and a caretaker mom and all of it. It's called The Lions Den, DIN.com. Den is a loud noise. And then when we retired, my husband and I started a little podcast called That Sports Couple, because the sports writer and the coach, this is our little studio. We don't have very many viewers yet. So if you'd like to check it out, you could.
We would love that.
Definitely. Yeah. The listeners can't see, but Lori, you have a lot of awards behind you, which I now understand is the shape of Louisiana.
Yes. Yeah. I was the prep writer of the year, which covers high school sports twice. My husband was coach of the year. That's some of those up there too.
Amazing.
And my Hall of Fame plaque and all that kind of stuff. I was inducted with Eli Manning. He was in my class of inductees. So, yeah.
Wow,
very impressive. Yeah.
You have a lot of stories to tell for sure.
You don't need to know.
Well, okay, let's start with why you're here today, which is, you mentioned this, but you are a mom of many sorts.
Yes.
So how did you create this family that you have today, Lori?
Well, I was a career woman, I guess, and I did not get married until late. I was 32 when I married my husband. He was divorced, and I had nothing to do with it. I met him, towards the end of it, and I think that's important because that kind of helps in the story I'm about to tell. He was getting divorced when we met. It was almost complete, and my mother was adamant, like, you do not want to marry a man with children. You don't want to marry, you're going to have an ex-wife. She was adamant that this was not going to work. But I did it anyway. And he had 2 children when I met him. Daniel is 42 today. And Courtney
happy birthday, Daniel.
Courtney is 30-something. And they were 6 and 8 when I met them. And the important thing is, I was a divorced kid. My parents divorced when I was 2. And I have absolutely no recollection of my parents as a couple. None. There's one photograph that exists of them with me. One in my entire life. So I was adamant that when I started getting serious with Marty, my husband is Marty Luquette, the coach, that I was not going to subject these children to the same sorts of things I went through. parents couldn't be in the same room. If I invited my dad to my talent show at school, my mother would be like, well, why is he here? My high school graduation was a complete drama fiasco. So much so that when I graduated from college at Loyola, I was a little late doing it, but I didn't walk the stage. I chose not to because I didn't want that drama. So I was determined that when I started my family, however, with these 2 children, I was not going to put them through any of that. So I made an effort to be friends with my husband's first wife. Her name is Cheryl. She is a wonderful woman. There were some awkward moments at first, of course. I literally remember one time walking into her house to pick up or drop off the kids, and I took my engagement ring off and put it in my pocket. Like I felt like I don't want to flaunt this, do you know? So, but and then Cheryl also was a divorced kid. So she understood. And she was also that, okay, we're going to put these kids first and make their life as easy as possible. And then later on, 6 years, my husband and I tried to have a baby and could not. And we did a couple of science experiments and went through a couple of near-miss adoptions. But finally, in 2001, we adopted a baby girl in a private adoption. She's getting married 1 month from yesterday.
Wow.
And when we started thinking about godparents and such, I told my husband, and he nearly fell out of the chair, I want Cheryl to be her godmother. And he said, people are going to say you're nuts. And I said, I know. And that's okay. But here's the reason. I never wanted her to say, okay, I'm taking my kids to get ice cream, but I'm leaving your kid behind. Because they're a set. Now there's 3 of them. So I needed to give her a my. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Makes total sense.
I needed to give her a my to say that is my godchild, not, oh, that's their kid. And it has worked out perfectly. School teachers throughout our area have, praised us and talked about how well adjusted our kids are. And so, and one, she's a very strong woman of very strong faith. She's a nice person. We both come from the same hometown. We didn't know each other. And we all just get along. I mean, we made it a priority to put the kids first. We have nothing to ever argue about. And it just has worked. And then, not everybody can do it, but we made it work.
Oh,
I love that.
I love it.
I think
Yeah.
that as children who went through, whose parents are divorced, and we went through stepmoms, and we have had the same stepdad since, for 30 years. So he's wonderful. I think having people that had gone through divorce in that way would have been really nice.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't have the best step parent either.
Right.
So
And so I think having, and our parents had gone, our mom had gone through divorce when she was a kid. So I think that she brought a lot of that to it.
Right.
But I think it's so amazing that you and Cheryl both brought that energy to it. What was it like when your daughter was growing up, and how did that play out? Could you give us some examples of that?
She rolled with it, and now she's a grandmother, and you see it. She was a kindergarten teacher, so she would come home with crafts. I have a whole closet full of Christmas gifts that were handmade. So, but she would she would get her after school on Tuesdays and take you to her house, and they'd go to McDonald's, and
that's so
they
nice.
would go to the park or the pumpkin patch, or they would do crafts or whatever. She grew up with her, spending time with her. Very, very present in her life. If we needed an emergency pickup, she was on the list. We could say, could she spend the night at your house while we do this? And absolutely. It was, she had a real relation, still does have a real relationship with her.
Yeah. What does she call her? Is there a special name for her?
Nanny. Louisiana, when you have a godmother, it's the term is nanny. So that's her nanny. And then when Cheryl remarried, it gets even crazier. When Cheryl remarried,
we love it.
she has her husband had 3 children, and so she became a stepmom to their 3 children. And so my daughter Laura became, we don't even know what to call them. I call them my stepchildren.
Love it. Yep.
Because they're like, we've been to weddings and we have events
Yeah.
together, things like that. And so she calls them, they're like cousins, I would imagine, her step siblings.
I
What's
love
the
that.
age difference with your kids, with your
Uh,
three?
um, Courtney was 13 when she was
Okay.
born,
Okay.
Okay.
and Daniel was a senior in high school.
Okay.
Okay.
Big age
So
difference.
and it was fun because she went to her first baseball game. She was 2 weeks old. So
Yeah.
and the kids were in high school. Daniel used to like to take her to the mall because
Yeah.
chicks dig babies.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We have a little sister who's 11 and 13 years younger than us, and
Mm.
we was great. Like, we would always get to, that was our first baby, really.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
I have a question, Lori.
Mhm.
This is were there conversations that you like sat down to have together to build out this family relationship, or is it very intuitive, or is it a mix of those?
Mm.
It just really evolved very naturally.
Mhm.
When we asked her, I said, I want you to be the godmother. And, it was like, everybody said, think you're kind of crazy. And we said, we know, and the loudest was my mom, who, came from that generation where you're
Yeah.
not supposed to be friends with her.
Right.
Mhm.
And then our adoption is an open adoption as well. So we have contact with I call her first mother.
Mhm.
We have contact with her throughout her life. And that freaked my mother and my
Yeah.
mother-in-law out quite a bit. Adoption is supposed to be secret and things like
Right.
that.
Right.
And
Right.
so we went against the norm in everything.
You're living out loud.
Yeah.
You're living out loud.
Yeah.
What? Oh, shoot. I had a question, but it's gone.
Wait, I had
Uh,
one. Not a question, maybe more of a comment. So
Oh.
your husband, I'm assuming, must be a very good man. That
That was what I was.
Yeah, I was
it
gonna
was.
say, I
Must have been an amicable divorce.
right,
Is what I was
say
gonna
that.
ask.
Yeah, like they just grew apart. I mean, it sounds like there was no real animosity.
No, it was kind of she asked for the divorce. He
Mhm.
was a coach. He was gone a lot. She was home with 2 kids,
Mhm.
whereas me, I'm a little different in that respect. I'm like, oh, you're going out today? Okay, bye. See you later.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
I have the house to myself. But I wasn't raising 2 kids either. So,
Right. Right.
yeah, but it was very amicable. There was
Yeah.
no real discussions. They settled their own custody and child support payments and things. I mean, there were some bumps, especially
course.
when he and I started dating and getting familiar with each other and things like that. But there was never a screaming,
Right.
like
No.
soap opera drama thing ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a great example of just like two good people that aren't compatible.
And he
Right?
says she's a good lady. She's
Yeah.
a wonderful woman. She was a school teacher, as I said. She, she's active in her church. She donates a lot of time.
Mhm.
Right now she's grandmother of the year. She, gets the kids off. We have 2 step grandchildren,
Mhm.
and she gets them off to school, or picks them up, or gets them here, gets them there.
Right.
And she's a really nice woman. She picks great Christmas and birthday gifts.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's just
I love that.
we just prioritize the important things, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mother's Day, we went to her house.
Right.
All of us went to her house.
I love that.
I usually would tell the kids, you spend Mother's Day with your mother.
Yeah.
Don't worry about me.
Yeah.
Because Marty, my husband's birthday, is usually on or right next to Father's Day. So
Okay.
we'll get you then.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. I never
Yeah.
really.
But I think that you are a person that has a very healthy ego. Just like from having this conversation with you, like, yeah, no, trust me, talk to a lot of people. Like, I think you're a person that has a very healthy ego and you have a very healthy sense of yourself. Some people wouldn't be able to, say that. Go. What do I need
Yeah,
you for?
exactly.
We'll get you on Father's Day. That's and so coming into it, like, I wonder, how old were you when you came into this scenario with Marty?
31.
31. He said 32 when you
Yeah.
got married. So
Right.
like you were formed and you
Yes.
also had this life and you were writing by then, I imagine. So
Mhm.
like you kind of knew who you were. Sounds like you did a lot of work before you showed up
Yeah.
to Marty. and then
fair.
he got the benefit of all of that.
Yeah, and plus we run in the same circles so
Okay.
much. Coach and a sports writer.
Right.
We knew the same people. We went to the same events. We spent yesterday at a baseball game. We drove 3 hours to go to a baseball game. And that's the kind of stuff we'll do.
Yeah.
He'll say, "Do you want to go?" And I'll say, well, "Yeah," or sometimes I'll say, "No, I'll watch it on TV."
Right. Yeah.
And healthy ego.
Yeah.
Like, yes, no, whatever. I love that.
Were there any life events that the whole village had to come together to do together?
Weddings, new babies.
Well, let me say this: when we brought Laura home from the hospital, the Super Bowl Sunday, in
Perfect for you.
2007, she was here. She was the first. She was the person at my house to greet me
I
and
love
give me the
that.
first hug.
Oh.
Like she was.
Made me cry.
She she rooted for us.
Yeah.
And we had one woman who we had kind of verbally contracted with, and we were involved with, and then taking her to the doctors and making sure she was healthy and things like that. And 19 days before her due date, she changed her mind and just kind of ghosted us. And it was then that a lot of people rallied around us. We also my stepson had a stillborn daughter, and his wife. They had a stillborn daughter several years ago, and we all, we were a family then.
Yeah.
We all came together then. And the whole caretaking thing. My mother-in-law, she had to move out of her assisted living place because she needed too much assistance. And I took care of her for the last 18 months of her life.
Wow.
But she was Cheryl's mother-in-law too. So
Yeah.
I could call on her if I needed to say, "Hey, could you come sit for an hour while I go do," she was
Yeah.
there, and holidays and things like that. Oh, that's the other thing. Holidays, we do them together. We alternate Christmases. One year she gets it at her house. One year I get it at my house. And Thanksgiving, we've kind of incorporated my stepson's mother-in-law, who was a friend of all of us before through baseball. So she gets Thanksgiving, and Cheryl and I alternate Christmas. And then we also have a parade. Our town has a Christmas parade the first week, the first Sunday in December. And it's a big open house. And she's usually, you can find her in my kitchen washing dishes. It's just, it really is a rewarding relationship for all of us. If
Yeah.
you know what
Yeah.
I mean. But yeah,
Yeah.
we've been through a lot. We've been through some the ups and downs. I got laid off in 2012 from the newspaper. Marty got let go from his job last year because they thought he was too old. He starts a new job this summer.
Oh, good for Marty.
Yeah.
He must be ready to go back to work,
He
I
is.
imagine.
He is, especially watching the game yesterday. It was the semifinals of the state championship, and it was hard for him to watch.
Aw.
But yeah. So we come together as a family when we funerals.
Yeah.
Her when her mother passed, when Marty's mother passed, when my mother passed. She's always included as it's family. She's
Yeah.
Yeah.
family. Yeah.
Now you share grandchildren, you said?
Yes. My stepson Daniel has two daughters.
Okay, so the hardest part for me when I was having my sons was figuring out what all the grandparents would be named, because we have a stepdad and a dad and a. So how the heck did you guys figure out what everybody's grandparent name was going to be?
She chose Honey.
Okay.
Oh, I love that.
Honey. And since my first nephew was born when I was 8 years old, he could not pronounce Lori, so I was Lolo.
Oh.
So that is my nickname for everything and
love
everyone.
that.
I'm Lolo. So
I love that.
the stepkids called me Lolo. That they never called me, it's a Southern thing to say Miss Lori to an adult. They never did that. I was Lolo. Just call me Lolo, So the kids call me that too.
I love that. I love that. Why do you think, from your perspective, that families struggle with this kind of beautiful blending sometimes?
Well, I think there's a little bit of old school. You're not supposed to be friends with them. You're supposed to be enemies with your ex. I had 2 ex-boyfriends at my wedding, y'all. I mean,
Healthy ego, I'm telling you. You got to bottle it. Figure out what it is and bottle it and sell it.
One of them owns a security company, and like
Mhm.
whenever there's big concerts around, like his company provides security for like Beyonce and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And so he gets me great tickets. So I've stayed friends with him.
Smart lady.
Yeah, and like when my daughter wanted to go see the Arctic Monkeys. Have you ever heard of the Arctic
Yep.
Monkeys?
Yeah.
They were playing at Voodoo Fest here in New Orleans, and I called him and I said, my daughter wants to go to Voodoo Fest. He said, I'll take care of it. He had her on stage, like in backstage, you know.
Very
Just-
useful man to know.
Yeah.
exactly, you know.
Yeah.
In New Orleans too, right? Like
Yeah.
that's a good place to know somebody in security that's good concerts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think there's an old school
Yeah.
stigma that you can't be friends with your ex or your
Mhm. Right.
husband's ex or your new boyfriend's ex.
Mhm.
You know, my mother, she didn't have anything against Cheryl at all. It was just, that's his ex-wife. You can't be friends with her.
Right.
And she predicted that there would be a lot of problems in the relationship because, you know, you always had this, she's always going to be in your life. And to her, that was a negative. It was
Right.
never a negative to me. It was oh,
Right.
good. She's okay. She's in my life. Cool. She's a good
Right.
person. You
Right.
know?
Mm.
And again, I think it's not always possible if, you know, there's infidelity going
Right.
on or
Right.
certain situations like that. If it starts ugly, it's going to be ugly. Ours did not.
Right.
Yeah. What advice do you give to people when they come and talk to you about this kind of thing and they're like, "Oh, I'm dating a man with kids," or, you know, what would you say to somebody?
It's difficult. And at first I overcompensated and I tried to
Mhm.
become super mom.
Mhm.
And I was on back in the old days, when America Online was the internet, there was a group where people talked about step families, and there was a group that talked about disengaging, and
Mhm.
it was the greatest advice. You are not their mom.
Yeah.
You are not there to change them. It's like a boyfriend. You're not there to change
Right.
them. You're just there. You're an extra person in their
Yeah.
life. But I did at first. I was, you know, I'm going to teach these kids this, and I'm going to make them.
Right.
And fortunately, you know, I caught myself very early, and I've since apologized to them. Like
Wow.
you get in there, and you're like, okay, I'm going to run with this. So my advice first is, don't try to be their mom. You're not. You know, you're a bonus mom, or you know,
Yeah. You get to be another great thing. Like
yeah. Why is it bad to have another person who loves your kids
Yeah.
in their life? Do you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, treat them like people, not, you know, like your kids. And my stepkids say, you know, I was very difficult on them. And then when Laura came along all these years later, it was like, she got away with everything. I said, oh, it's true. Yeah, absolutely. You're right. Absolutely
Yeah.
right. Because I was trying so hard
Right.
at first that I made some missteps. I'm not saying I was perfect or this has gone perfect. We've had a couple of bumps in the road, but it's very nice to know that there's another person I can count on. I had to work the day my daughter's freshman orientation at college. Well, guess who took her? Cheryl. So you know, trick or treating a couple of times I had to work.
Yeah.
Cheryl took her trick or treating or to see Santa. Cheryl got her ears pierced because I said, I'm not doing it.
Oh my
I
gosh.
have a question, and you don't have to answer this, but I don't know if there's assigned seating at Laura's wedding, but I'm wondering where Cheryl is sitting.
Cheryl will be sitting wherever my daughter wants her to sit.
That's right.
She will have a corsage. I'm getting
Yep.
corsages for the two mothers.
Mhm.
Cheryl and Laura's first mother will be there as well.
Oh, I love that.
But the story that's gonna make you awe is when Daniel got married.
Mhm.
I might cry.
I might cry.
I was on the front row. My husband was his best man, and I was on the front row with Cheryl. And at the reception for the mother groom dance, Cheryl danced half the dance, and the you and I see.
Yeah.
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 That's what we did at her wedding too.
At my
Yeah.
wedding, yeah.
Yeah.
To
And
the other
halfway,
dads.
she
Yep.
called me over and gave me half the dance.
Oh.
Yeah.
What
I
song
mean-
was it?
I don't even remember.
Sorry, we can cut that.
Probably, knowing Cheryl, it was probably butterfly kisses or something.
Okay.
That's a good one. Classic 90s.
I love this story so much, and I think it's important. We hear about like step parents or blended families, and it's like these like horrible stories, and I just want to shine a light on these beautiful
Yeah.
villages that people
Yeah.
are building. I mean, that's
Yeah.
Because,
you know.
yeah, like you said, it's an option. Like, you
Yeah.
don't have to choose the thing that was always, and I think a lot of it, and again, this comes back to your healthy ego and probably Cheryl's healthy ego, there's a jealousy aspect to it. Like,
There's no jealousy
you know,
in this at
right.
all.
And there's no, and so I
She
think
does
when
have
you
a
have,
bigger house, but
that's more to clean. That's more to clean. You know, I think that like when when you're coming into it with jealousy, there's an animosity there, and there's
Right.
like a, you know, a fear. And I think that, you know, you saying you don't have to actually do that stuff. You can
No.
just bypass it and
Right.
have a good time. Like,
Right.
that is such an important voice to amplify.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
and like I just said, the reason y'all found this was I posted, I think, in Threads that Cheryl gave Laura her bridal shower at her house. And she called me one day. She said, I want to give Laura a bridal shower. I need you to, get together with her and pick a date.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And look, she went all out. Like half of the decorations for the wedding, she was like, we got a room full of stuff now. She went every detail. She's a very much an entertainer kind of person. She has a lovely house. I live in a little old cottage, 100-year-old cottage. She lives in a big house. And so every detail, flowers, wine, food, everything was just perfect. And then we were discussing logistics for the wedding. And like I said, I have a tiny house. And I'm going to have a house guest, and she's got 4 bridesmaids. And I said, where are y'all going to get dressed? And I said, what about nannies? So we called Cheryl, and Cheryl said, absolutely, and she said, I'm going to have sandwiches. We'll have champagne. Like, she's ready. She's ready to go with it.
Not only did you get the opportunity to have the bonus kids, right, to have your stepkids, but you gave her the opportunity to be like almost like a very young grandmother. Like, she got all the benefits of being a grandma, but like didn't have to. It was like doing it in her youth, and got to have Laura, and it's so much fun to pick a child up from school once a week and not do the rest of it. You know what I mean? Like that. I know I'm a very involved aunt. Like, it's wonderful, and so. She got the benefit of Laura.
Exactly.
Like,
it was
I
like
can
a grandchild. Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell that she's grateful to have her in her life.
Oh,
and
yeah.
very,
She loved it very much. They did all kinds of activities.
They had their own
had
thing.
a standing Tuesday afternoon. They'd go to McDonald's. They get ice cream. They go to the park, fly kites. Whatever activity she came up with.
How special is it to have just more people to love your kid? Right?
That's exactly it.
It's like you get to share these memories with all these people.
I know.
Yeah.
Laura, you're amazing. We just love talking to you. And we're going to have you come back on and talk
I'd
more.
love to.
If you would you send us a couple pictures from the wedding after it happens?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, I would love to see them.
Yes.
Yes,
and we want to see your husband with everyone.
Yeah, him too. I'm like, I want to see Cheryl.
I love it. And, there are so many things you said I would love to dig into even further. I want to know how you got into your writing, all of the things. So we're going to have you back.
I'm trying to write a book.
I was going to say, where can people follow along right now with what you're doing?
The blog is thelionsden.com. That's where I write about all of this stuff. Adventures with mom and children and the bride and all that kind of stuff. And then our little podcast, That Sports Couple. We have a website, thatsportscouple.com, and we're on YouTube.
Amazing.
We only have like 10 viewers so far. So
that's okay. That's okay.
We got to start somewhere.
Early stage. We just started it last football season, and so we're feeling our way through that one. It was a way, to keep us both involved.
Yeah.
And as I said, I'm retired now, and I float in my pool. And
good for you.
Yeah, I love it. And my plan is to write one book on blended families, how to be friends with your husband's ex-wife.
Yes.
I did write a blog post on there with friends like these about our relationship. And then I also want to write one about being the caretaker generation. Because that's hard.
It is
My
hard.
mother-in-law also, my in-laws both lost their house in Hurricane Katrina.
Oof.
They lived in Waveland, Mississippi, which was leveled. And so about a week later, they moved into my house and lived for a year and a week. They moved in with everything they owned in a plastic grocery bag
Wow.
and left with a U-Haul. So there you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I want to write one about that. And I'm also kind of writing my sports writer chick memoirs.
Awesome.
That wasn't easy either, being a female sports writer in a
I can
male-dominated.
imagine.
Yeah, it was
I have no
challenging.
doubt. Okay, but what about the sitcom you're going to write about your family? That's what I'm waiting for.
I always said that that it would make a great
It
premise.
really would.
A sports writer, a woman,
Mhm.
and a coach. There've been times we've gone to games together, and like he'll come with me because if I'm traveling far or whatever, he'll come with me. And we've been in press boxes where everybody treats him like a king and can we get you anything? And then at halftime, I'm the one who opens the laptop and starts typing, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Wait a minute." But
I love it.
But I became fairly well known in our state.
It's amazing.
After that long, I did well. So
You
Yeah.
I would
are.
watch that show.
I know. I was going to say, you are epic, Lori. Well, we will definitely have you back on. Thank you so
Thank you
much for
so much.
sharing.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
It's a fresh story, come and see. With Olivia and Jenny, be who you need to be. Honest voices, safe and strong. Come as you are, you belong. So take a breath, let's begin. You're not alone, we're here again.